Don't mention that. Shh. Don't mention. He's a jihadi. No. Don't even give out the name till we get our press release ready. Shh. Don't do that. Which is outrageous. Go.
4 people were held hostage Saturday night at Congregation Beth Israel. This is in Colleyville. The suspect has been identified as Malik Faisal Akram. Now, he was killed on the scene. All the hostages made it out alive. 2 of them are now detailing the tense hours before they were released. CBS News correspondent Omar Villafranca reports the latest details.
It was terrifying. It was overwhelming. And we're still processing.
Appearing on CBS Mornings, Rabbi Charlie Citron Walker described the tense 11-hour standoff at Congregation Beth Israel and the moment he realized the man who claimed to be homeless was taking them hostage.
I heard a click, and it could have been anything, and it turned out that it was his gun.
Sources tell CBS News 44-year-old Malik Faisal Akram was a British citizen who arrived at New York's JFK airport about 2 weeks ago. Making his way to Texas, he stayed in a homeless shelter and somehow obtained a gun. Today, one of the hostages says...
Wait a minute. Somehow he obtained a visa from the Biden administration. How come they don't mention that? Well, we know why they don't mention that. Go ahead.
Akram claimed he targeted the synagogue because of its proximity to Afia Siddiqui, a convicted terrorist with suspected ties to Al-Qaeda. He demanded her release from a Texas prison as the FBI rescue team flew in from Quantico, Virginia. Hostage Jeffrey Cohen told CBS station KTVT that after 10 hours of negotiations,
he started spouting for a good few minutes. I was going to put a bullet in each of us. Whereas earlier in the day, he was going to let us all go, and he was the only one who was going to die. But at that point, he was going to kill each of us. He even told us to get down on our knees.
But before the FBI went in, the hostages saw an opportunity to save themselves.
He put his gun down to pour some soda. And that's the point that Rabbi Charlie threw the chair and yelled, "Run."
I told them to go. I threw a chair at the gunman, and I headed for the door. And all 3 of us were able to get out without even a shot being fired.
A video shot by ABC affiliate WFAA shows the hostages escaping through a side door. Akram follows them out, then ducks back in. The tactical unit springs into action. Within seconds, Akram was dead. The hostages alive. Like many religious groups, members of this synagogue have been through active shooter training.
We were consciously watching and looking for those opportunities because that is what saved our lives.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, more and more synagogues, particularly Orthodox, but others, are having to do this active training in case somebody breaks into the synagogue, somebody wants to kill people or kidnap people. It doesn't get talked about very much, does it? Instead, we get critical race theory, right? Instead, we get about how white dominant society is so destructive. Why can't we speak openly about who's doing this? I understand there are white supremacists out there. Remember that church murder that was horrific in South Carolina? But there's also this. And I know the FBI and other federal and state and local law enforcement individuals are aware of these groups. And they're aware of people who want to continue to attack Americans, whether 9/11 and beyond. But we don't seem to be able to talk about it. We seem to be able to talk about everything else but this. Why is that? Well, one of the elements of the Democrat Party is a group called CARE. And this group called CARE, Council on Islamic Relations, is a radical left-wing group. It was formed in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia specifically, by people associated with Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood. And they created CARE as a presence in the United States to push back. Against what, I'm not sure. And CARE, you can look this up yourselves, I mentioned it on radio the other night, has been involved in several protests in the state of Florida for the release of this convicted terrorist who got 86 years, Lady Al-Qaeda, as they call her, for the release of Lady Al-Qaeda. So when they put out a statement the other day denouncing what took place at this synagogue, maybe they ought to get their own members and organization under control, but they're not going to. This is an organization that's welcomed by every Democrat White House, every Democrat president. There's an organization that has influence and access at the highest levels on Capitol Hill. This is an organization that is treated as representative of the Muslim community in America, even though it's not, just because it says so. And it is a very radical organization, this organization, CARE. And it concerns me a lot that there's been almost nothing reported about it. As I say, you can look it up yourselves. Joe Biden initially wouldn't mention the fact that Jews in a synagogue was targeted, that they weren't clear the motives. I mean, you're not clear the motives? Shouldn't that click in 2 seconds? Well, I can tell you for most Americans who are of good heart and sound mind, it does. And so the special agent in charge, I don't blame him as much as I blame the FBI at the highest levels for indoctrinating and training and having seminars run by CARE and other groups. You might remember that Obama basically prohibited certain language from even being used by federal law enforcement, certain courses being taken because of the concern of the focus on the Muslim community. But there's not a focus on the Muslim community. There is a focus to determine if there are individuals within the Muslim community who wish to do harm to the United States. You have to be Helen Keller not to see or hear what some of these individuals and these groups are saying, or some of the strategies they use.
Want to see more? Sign up for Levin TV.